We may be familiar with the song on the 12th day of Christmas. The modern melody from Frederick Austin goes back to the beginning of the 20th century, but it's quite clear that this goes back at least to the 18th century, where there was a children's book called Mirth Without Mischief, published in 1780. And the song was presented as a game or a chant rather than a tune, and players were expected to remember and recite the increasing list of gifts without error, making it more of a parlour game than anything else. Now, the 12 Days of Christmas were, of course, incredibly important in the Tudor and medieval times, and I'm reminded of them because I was just watching a programme on A Haber on Turkish television, and I'll come to that in due course. But I think to start with, we should just look at this idea of the 12 days of Christmas, spanning from Christmas Day, that's December the 25th, to the Epiphany, January the 6th. And they were a central part of the medieval and Tudor festive tradition. But the emphasis during this period was quite different from the modern day celebration of Christmas. There may well have been a Yule log. There may well have been dragging a green tree in from outside. But Christmas Day marked the beginning of the festive season, and it was primarily a solemn religious occasion, a holy day of obligation centered around the birth of Christ. And celebrations were relatively subdued, while the focus was about attending church services. The real revelry began on St. Stephen's Day, the following day, Boxing Day, and continued until the Epiphany with feasts, music, dancing, plays, and games. And each day had its own religious and cultural significance, such as December the 27th, St. John's Day, Twelfth Night, January the 5th, which was particularly festive with banquets and merriment. The Lord of Misrule, as figure who was chosen to preside over the revelry, brought a carnivalesque atmosphere to courtly and communal celebrations, turning the world upside down with playful mockery and inversions of social norms. The Festival of Fools, if you are thinking of the Disney film Hunchback of Notre Dame. But and this was, of course, a variation on the Roman feast of Saturnalia. In Tudor and medieval times, New Year's Day, January the 1st, was the traditional time for gift-giving, not Christmas Day, and this practice reflected the Roman origins of the holiday season, particularly the calends of January, a time for exchanging gifts in pagan Rome, as the New Year symbolized, they hoped, renewal and good fortune under the two-headed god of Janus. And exchanging presents on January the 1st was a way to bless the coming year with prosperity and to ensure that the god was looking in the right direction for good relationships and hope. And practicality also played a role. Christmas Day was religiously focused, so secular gifts were transferred to the less sacred day, the head of the year. And Henry VIII, like many monarchs of his time, adhered to these traditions, making New Year's Day the highlight of gift-giving rather than Christmas Day, and his court festivities reflected both the solemnity of the Christmas feast and the extravagant revelry of the season. As a devout Christian, Henry would have prioritised attending Mass on Christmas Day rather than indulging in any personal celebration, and lavish feasts would follow the religious ceremonies, but they were communal and not focused on personal indulgences like gift-giving. Henry VIII was known for his extravagant presents when he was given the opportunity, and elaborate court ceremonies when they were demanded. Gifts to and from courtiers, ambassadors and queens were exchanged on New Year's Day. So the people in the USSR got something right with their New Year trees and their gifts on New Year's Day rather than on Christmas, which of course in the Orthodox calendar would follow a few days after the New Year on the 7th of January. These exchanges of gifts in the Tudor court were highly practical and highly political. They reflected, oh my goodness, they reflected loyalty, flattery, or status. For example, Anne Boleyn's New Year gifts to Henry included personal tokens such as jewellery that solidified her favour. Henry VIII also celebrated Twelfth Night with grandeur. Plays, masks, feasts marked the culmination of the 12 days with indulgence and splendour. and of course the Shakespeare play, The Twelfth Night. The sacred focus, the holy day of obligation, get that out of the way, and then move on to the festivities, and that brings me to a haber. And sorry, above my desk I have lots and lots of notes, and I'm a great list keeper, or list maker. And one set of my notes, I'm not really quite sure what they've got here. This is some notes about Walter Badgett, but I have no idea. But these things occasionally fall down. And what Haber was talking about was the 5 or 7 planes that have crashed since the 25th of December. It's almost as if it's a rival tale to the 12 days of Christmas. Is this going to continue? Is this coincidence, or is this a cautionary tale in advance of the inauguration of Trump's presidency? So this is a grim aviation advent calendar where instead of chocolates or carols, we're greeted with headlines of aircraft incidents from around the world. It's a dark twist on the 12 days of Christmas. But it could also merely be an unsettling series of odd events, coincidences. Either way, it's worth exploring what's been unfolding in the skies and in the airports around the world. First, there's the plane crash in Kazakhstan, the Azerbaijan plane in the Eurasian expanse, attributed to technical issues by Russia. Attributed to Russian interference in being shot down by the president of Azerbaijan. And while official apologies that there was an incident in our airspace were provided by Putin, they aren't real apologies for shooting the plane down, which seems to have been done by the people controlling the anti-aircraft defense systems, and those are controlled by Ramzan Kadyrov's nephew, and he was given medals literally on the day of the crash. And so while there are some sort of apologies and an acceptance of airspace accountability, Russian media has added fuel to this fire by speculating the plane may have been deliberately targeted. That is, of course, the Russian sort of media on Telegram, which points out that the plane had been shot 3 times and defies the official speculation, which is talking about gas canisters and explosions within the plane itself. Was this mechanical failure? Was this sabotage? Or was this stupidity? Who knows? Then there's Norway, where a plane skidded off a runway in Oslo, and winter weather always brings challenges, and icy runways can transform takeoffs and landings into perilous endeavours. Mercifully, there were no casualties, but the spectre of climate-induced extremes raises questions about the interplay of nature and aviation. On the same day, Canada faced its own mishap, a charter flight which went awry, though again, no injuries reported. Frozen equipment or human error, who knows, both seem plausible. In a season of snow and ice, perhaps this is more a victim of meteorology than mechanical negligence. And then there's the story from Canada. We go to South Korea, where a military aircraft suffered a fiery end, and whether due to technical problems, pilot error, or something more ominous remains to be seen. South Korea's tense geopolitical neighbourhood invites questions about the broader implications of such incidents and how this plane could have landed on the airway, on the airstrip, without wheels down, and then crashed into a wall that shouldn't have been there. Or it certainly shouldn't have been a hard wall anyway. And then there's 2 further crashes today, which up the tally, taking us to this unsettling 7. A private jet crash in Stuttgart left 2 injured, while a near miss in Los Angeles involved a passenger plane narrowly avoiding a collision with a private jet. These incidents may not have caused fatalities, but they add to the weight of growing unease. 7 planes involved in accidents. And the media has been abuzz with the Turkish channel Haber dissecting the chronology and the choreography and speculating about the causes. Are these incidents mere coincidence, simply coincidence? Aviation experts often attribute such clustering to statistical flukes exacerbated by winter conditions and heightened seasonal travel. Still, when crashes span continents from Eurasia to North America, it's difficult to ignore what seems to be an emerging pattern. And Russian media, ever keen on dramatic narratives, suggest that at least one crash may have been a deliberate act to restrict airspace. There is speculation in Russian telegram channels that actually the Azerbaijani plane was brought down as a deliberate act to close Russian airspace to ensure that Putin and the Kremlin have greater control over the people in Russia. While far-fetched, the timing and the geopolitical contexts make such theories hard to dismiss outright.